verses 29, 30, 31, we see a beautiful exposition of Advaita Vedanta. This is Vedant in practice. This is Vedant on an earthly battlefield. Some extremely valuable insights will emerge from the discussion tonight. You see, Vedant looks at reality at three levels. The highest is the most difficult to comprehend for the mind, and most difficult for the ego to surrender to. The highest level of reality is no ordinary thing, nor does it demand an ordinary surrender. Surrendering to the highest level involves complete obliteration of the one who is surrendering. Hence, the order of approachability of the three levels is inversely proportional to the truth contained in them. The bottommost is where comfort lies for the ego, but the bottommost is where the truth is present as a mere shadow, as a faint whisper. Then is the middle level, where there is a real possibility of approaching the truth. But the possibility remains mostly unrealized, that is for most people. And then there is the highest level, the truest, in fact the only true one. Even to say truest involves a comparison among degrees of truth, which is absurd. But then the highest level is also the most unapproachable, rather unacceptable to the ego. What is happening here? Please see. Sri Krishna, as a true guide, friend and mentor, is trying to bring, first of all, the highest level to Arjuna. That's the first attempt. So in verses 29, 30 and the ones prior to these, he talks of the true self. That is the highest level of truth. We have used these terms before, so you're already familiar. That's the Paramarthic level, the absolute level, the transcendental level, the level beyond all levels. So that's the level of the self, the pure self. The pure self as the only truth. That's the dictum of the highest level. The pure self as the only truth. So if somebody is in sorrow, then the sorrow can be very gainfully and rather permanently be addressed by bringing that person, that ego, to the highest level. That's the best solution. Solution of the highest order carrying a lot of permanence. Solution with no side effects whatsoever, rather a lot of bounties coming as spin-offs. Hence, we said, as a true friend and a guide, the first attempt of Sri Krishna is to bring Arjun to the highest level. The highest, we said, is also the most difficult, the most unacceptable. Arjun does not want to yield. Seeing the truth at the highest level is to see oneself as false. And that is a guaranteed freedom from sorrow, because all sorrow is to you. If you are false, then how can your sorrows carry any truth? The best way to gain freedom from sorrow is to see the sorrowful one, the sorrowing one, the suffering one as fictitious. Who is in pain? The pained one is a story. The pained one really does not exist. The pained one exists only to himself. The pained one is his own creation. If the pained one is not there, how can pain exist? There has to be somebody to accept the pain, validate the pain. Pain is validated by acting as the one in pain. If the one in pain is gone, where is the pain now? The pain too is gone. So that's how the treatment proceeds at the highest level. The highest level is where the ego is subsumed to the truth. If the ego is not there, who is there to suffer? Hence all suffering is gone. The sufferer comes to the master. The master does not tell him that the suffering is false. The master tells him that the sufferer is false. If the sufferer is false, who is there to receive the suffering? Gone. Game over. So that's the first attempt. That is always the first attempt when the master is capable and the intention is genuine. Otherwise, it's quite absurd, humorous, if not ridiculous. You come to me, I am the suffering one, and you tell me, your suffering can be healed while retaining the sufferer. Isn't that absurd? If the sufferer is, the suffering is. Does the suffering exist apart from the sufferer? That's how the sufferer would want to believe. The sufferer would say, I can exist even without the suffering, which means the sufferer and the suffering are two distinct things. The sufferer would like to say, the suffering is incidental. The suffering is not innate to my existence. Suffering has come to me because of diverse reasons. Some situation, some random coincidence. And had the particular event not happened, you wouldn't have found me suffering. So suffering is not something inalienable to me. Suffering is not indispensable. I can be and yet not suffer. That's what the sufferer would like to claim. I can be and yet not suffer. That's what the entire world likes to believe in. No? Remaining who I am, remaining as I am, I can still be free of suffering. That's a very sad thing to believe in, because this belief is at the root of all sadness. As long as you are, suffering will continue. You are the suffering. As long as you are, the sickness will continue. You are the sick one, and therefore you are your own sickness. It is impossible to be as you are and yet not suffer. Not possible. So the best treatment, rather the only treatment possible, is at the highest level. What happens at the highest level? The hollowness of the little usual self is displayed. That's the highest level of instruction, the highest level of teaching. The sufferer comes, as Arjun does here, and the teacher shows him, as long as you remain who you are, no help is possible. The good news is, there is no real need to remain as you are, because what you have unnecessarily become is anyway artificial. It's an imposition. It's a borrowed mass. It's something that you have just put upon yourself in long, continuous movements of ignorance. It's not who you are. It's what you have ignorantly become. What you have become is just not your necessity, your identity, your reality. You put it on. You can take it off. Just like clothes. Doffing and donning. If you don it, you can doff it. It's just that you have forgotten that the thing is not yours, that it didn't spring from your insides, that it came to you from outside. You have forgotten that. Things that you do in moments of intoxication, inebriation. Do you remember those things? Do you remember? Can you recall everything that happened last night? Difficult. But things did happen. And you received those things without knowing what you are receiving. No? You are drunk and somebody can smear something on your forehead. You won't even know. You received it without knowing what you have received. And since you didn't note that you received the thing, the next morning you will wake up and conclude that the thing is yours. You don't remember it came from somewhere else. You don't remember seeing it coming from outside. So the obvious conclusion would be, the thing is mine. It's springing from within. It's not. It's not. That primitive ignorance is what is called avidya. Primitive ignorance. That's the beginning of everything. So it is inevitable that you will not remember. The beginning has to be in niscience. That's avidya, niscience. If there is awareness, there will be no beginning. So you cannot be and not be forgetful, at least in the beginning. Not possible. If you are, that means there was a moment of forgetfulness when you came to be. It's not a moment, it's a long spell. It's a spell that runs over your entire life. Lucky is the one who can break out of the spell, the charm, even in the last moment of his life. But even if you don't want to talk of the entire course of one's lifetime, entire lifespan, yet it has to be acknowledged that the beginning is always in ignorance. Look at something very material. How much do you remember of your early years? How were you as an infant? Can you recall? Very difficult. That's a pointer to how the beginning is. You just don't know what's going on, and yet you have come into being. You come into being without knowing what's going on. Do you remember how it was inside the mother's womb? Any idea? Faintest memory? We won't remember anything probably even from our first 2 years. The mother's womb is too much to ask for. Any memory from your first 2 years? No. So that's how you begin. If the ignorance is so deep that even the first 2 years or even 3 years are not remembered, think of the depth of ignorance when you were in the womb. Or think of the depth of ignorance when you were not even in the womb. Life does not suddenly begin at a moment, right? If you are alive today, we say you were alive when you were 2 years old. If you are alive after you were born, we say you were alive when you were in the womb. And if you were alive in the womb, surely you were alive even before that, though it's convenient to assume that you are not. In the UK, for example, they allow embryos to be harvested for research, provided the embryos are not allowed to live beyond 14 days. It's some kind of arbitrary assumption. They say after 14 days, it is possible that they will gain life. So if the experiment continues even after 14 days, then it means that you are experimenting with a living being. So arbitrarily, they have said till 14 days is fine. Till 14 days is fine, you are non-living. And we can experiment with non-living things. But after 14 days, probably life has come. From where will life come? If it is alive, it is always alive. If it is not, it would never be. But that's a very tricky question to handle, no? What is life? What to call as living and what to call as non-living? Because if you go deeply, sufficiently deeply into that question, you might come to see that you are not alive at all. So we don't want to go into that question. So we want to have some convenient assumptions. One of those is this. Similarly, the whole thing around the abortion debate. When can we call the fetus as living? So somebody says n number of weeks, somebody says no, n plus 4 number of weeks, 3 months, 4 months, all kinds of debates are raging. How can something become suddenly conscious? You are always conscious, or you are not conscious at all. There has to be a continuity. There is nothing to suggest a lack of continuity. And if you want to maintain the supposition of a lack of continuity, you will have to believe in something called the arbitrary random entrance of the soul. That's what is called as the Jivatma. You know, the Jivatma was not there in the embryo till yesterday, and today the Jivatma made an entry, so now the thing is alive. And it is to sustain our absurd hypothesis that you become living at some point in time that the concept of Jivatma has been fabricated. The soul, Jivatma. Otherwise, how will you? Vedant avers very clearly. See what Sri Krishna is to say in the Gita when we reach there, in one of the subsequent chapters. What you call as Jad is Chetan, what you call as Chetan is Jad. The distinction is arbitrary. There is no dividing line between the conscious and the unconscious, which means that you don't suddenly become conscious. It is the unconscious, the seemingly unconscious, that starts manifesting itself as conscious to somebody who is conscious. It doesn't even manifest itself. Maybe it was always conscious and you are failing to see the consciousness in the stone. So from your point of view, when you are able to see that the little plant's roots have broken through the surface of the stone and a little flower is showing up, then you say, the bloom. The bloom. Then you say, the stone has turned into something animate and the flower is the proof. Maybe the flower was always contained in the stone. Maybe it's just we who were unable to see that. And that's what Sri Krishna would say in the coming verses. Don't think that life ever starts. Life always is. Equally, you could say life never is. But what you can never say is that there is a discontinuity, that there is a random moment when the insentient becomes the sentient. No, there is no such random moment. You are always alive. You know the beautiful conclusion? There is a thing called death. If you can just let go of the notion that you were born one particular day, you become immortal. And besides that, there is no route to immortality. To become immortal, rather, to see that you are immortal, you will have to see that you are never born. The one who is never born becomes free of death. Only the one who is never born will never die. Are you getting it? Now, this is the highest level of relief from suffering, the paramarthic level, the transcendental level. But to accept the bounties at this level, the bliss at this level, you have to make one simple submission. Sir, I agree that I am not alive. Most people would rather die than not be alive. Figure out what that means. Most people would prefer a life of unending death rather than accept that they were never alive at all. So that level is very difficult to accept. Therefore, when Krishna tries to explain things at that level to Arjuna, it doesn't work out. We said Krishna is a genuine friend. So he tries to bring the highest possible thing as the first thing to Arjuna. That's not the way of the fake friend or the shopkeeper. Don't we know that the bad note puts the good note out of circulation? Have you not heard of that? What is it that you first want to pass off in a commercial transaction? The bad note. But that's not how friends behave. Among friends, among well-wishers, What you want to give to the other is the best note that you have. So Krishna is giving the best that he has in the first place. Even in a commercial transaction, it is possible that you do end up getting a good note, but that's only after he gives you some kind of torn note or fake one, and what do you say? No, this won't work, kindly exchange. And then he gives you a better one. Right? Only under compulsion do you manage to extract something worthwhile from the world. Otherwise, the world is not willing to give you something genuine. Krishna is not like that. His first attempt is to give the best thing to Arjuna. But here Arjuna is not willing to take the best thing. What happens in the world? They try to pass off something shoddy to you. There you are not willing to take up something, accept something, because the thing is substandard. Are you getting it? Here something opposite is happening. Here Krishna is trying to give the best to Arjuna, and Arjuna is not willing to take it exactly because the thing is beyond Arjuna's level. The thing is just too good for Arjuna. Arjuna is saying, this is like, give me something that matches my level. What you are telling me is beyond me to accept. So from there, Krishna drops the discourse to the lower level, middle level. The middle level is the vyavharik level, the practical level, the level of facts, not the level of absolute truth, but the level of relative facts. This too is not that deplorable a level if you can stay with the facts continuously. Gradually you start getting a glimpse of the truth. Facts are nice things. They aren't the truth in themselves. But if you stay with them, they can lead you towards something beyond them. As we say, facts are the door to truth. So if you stay with the facts, you will start seeing things. So at this level, Sri Krishna talks of Prakriti. Look at the verses 28, 29. Sri Krishna says, Atma, never born, never dies. Prakriti, continuous birth, continuous death, which implies just a change of form. So hence again, there is no individual death in Prakriti, because there is no individual. The individual is just a fiction, just a form, like the individual wave. Comes and goes, has no real existence of its own. Krishna tries both the levels, the highest level, the paramarthic level, the absolute transcendental level, then the middle level, the relative level, the level of facts. He says, you see in Prakriti, stuff is coming and going, rising and falling each moment. What's there to worry about? Plus these who are coming and going have no individual identities really. Think of one particular leaf on the tree. What individual identity can it have? What does it have that the other tree does not, or the other leaf does not? So it grows, attains maturity, falls, and it leaves behind so much that looks exactly like itself. Further, when it falls, it goes to the root, maybe root of the same tree or the root of the other tree. Maybe today, maybe 100 years from today. And then it slowly grows into some other leaf, and then it again falls. So again, there is nothing to mourn here. Sorrow is unfounded. At the highest level, suffering is unfounded because the sufferer does not exist. At the middle level, suffering is unfounded because the sufferer continuously exists. Please understand. So even if you can honestly stay at the level of facts, you will find freedom from suffering. At the level of truth, there is no suffering because there is no one to suffer. Never born, hence never gone. At the middle level, there is no individuality. You are there, he is there, and you are gone. What is gone? Nothing special. Anybody, anything who exists other than you, besides you, is much the same as you. No uniqueness has been lost. We all are brothers, not just figuratively, but actually, literally, biologically. We all are descendants of the same first cell. And information is flowing continuously from there till your body. It's a continuous flow of information. And that same information is present in some other body as well. Because ultimately everything can be traced back to the first cell. Even if you disappear, nothing really has disappeared. You know, there is a very minuscule chance that even if an entire species has disappeared, just by way of random evolution, the species can return. It may take millions, billions of years, but there is a non-zero probability. Are you getting it? So even if you go, what uniqueness, what speciality has really gone? Nothing. It is just the individual ego that looks at itself as special. Otherwise, there is nothing called the individual as such. So, at the middle level, you never go because that which is within your body is within everybody's body. And we are not talking of the soul here, we are talking of the DNA. There is a continuity. So, no need to worry, no space for sorrow. Arjun, cheer up and do what you must. Play the game of life. But somehow Arjun is so enthralled, not in the positive way. You could say bewitched, captivated by his concepts, that he does not respond even at the middle level. We have come to verse 31, and even at the end of verse 30, Sri Krishna can see that Arjun is still doleful, unable to put himself together, unable to gather his wits and get up and fight. So now we come to verse 31, and let's see what Sri Krishna does here. Sri Krishna does what a teacher never likes to do. Sri Krishna is doing what the teacher does only in a situation of helplessness. He is treating Arjun at the bottommost level. No teacher wants to do that. But what if the student refuses to cooperate at any other level? then this is what is left. The bottommost. The bottommost level is the level of concepts, stories, imaginations, beliefs, assumptions. Just fiction. It is called the pratibhasik level. So Paramarthik, Vyavharik, Pratibhasik level. This is the karuna, compassion of Krishna, that he has agreed to bring himself down to the bottommost level Arjuna is sticking to. He is saying, Arjuna, you are refusing to rise to my level. You are refusing to rise even to the level of facts. Fine. Like a true friend, I'll come to the place where you are. And this is where Arjuna is. At the level of imaginations, stories, fiction, belief. At this level, Sri Krishna says, fine. If I can still get him to break his stupor and get up and fight, maybe I'll have another chance. Maybe after some time I'll be able to try again. But let me get him going in whichever way possible, at whatever cost. Because there is definitely a heavy cost attached to operating at the lowest level. Krishna says, fine, let's bear that cost. Let's bear that cost, because the first two attempts have failed. Arjuna is not responding. There is no choice left. What is it that he says to Arjuna now? He says, Arjuna, you are a Kṣatriya. At the topmost level, who is Arjuna? Pure self, Atma. Arjuna says, no, no, no. What is Atma? It terrifies me. At the middle level, who is Arjuna? Prakriti. The continuous flux of Prakriti. Arjuna says, no, 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 I am not a continuous flow. I am just a particular individual special drop. Arjuna refuses to buy even the middle level. So Krishna finally descends to the bottommost point and says, Arjuna, you are a Kṣatriya, right? To this you will agree. And of course, this is something Arjuna cannot refute, because he himself has admitted in chapter 1 that I am very particular about Kṣatriya Dharma and what will happen to all the Kṣatriya women once the men are killed. So now Arjuna can't backtrack. He has already avowed his Kṣatriya identity. So Krishna picks on that and says, you are Kṣatriya, right? And what should a Kṣatriya do? Fight. So you fight. You will not fight as the true self. You don't want to fight as purposeless Prakriti either. So fight as a Kshatriya. But fight, do fight. Not so easy to get Arjuna going. Pretty tough nut to crack. He won't acquiesce even after this. But what's very remarkable about this is the willingness of the teacher to stoop to the level of the student. But there is a danger that lurks. If the student is cunning enough, sharp not in the sense of being discreet, sharp in the sense of self-preservation. I am the ego and I want to preserve my identity as the ego. If the student is cunning enough, then the student would catch this opportunity very gleefully and say, "Sir, what's the difference between me and you? If you too believe in the Varna system, I am Arjun, the Kshatriya. I believe in the Varna Vyavastha, the Varna system. And here you are telling me to fight because I am a Kshatriya, which proves that you too believe in the Varna system, which means you are much the same as I am. And if the two of us are so alike, how can you be the teacher? If you and me are much on the same level, then let me do as I please. Because anyway, both of us belong to the same level, you see. If both of us belong to the same level, then we are equals. And if we are equals, who are you to tell me to do this or not to do that? Then I'll do as I wish to. And that has always happened. Out of his love and compassion, the teacher drops to a very lowly level, a level that does not behove the teacher, a level that some part of the teacher would probably be ashamed of. The student makes the teacher do unmentionable things. And when the teacher is found doing those things, then the student says, "Hey, look at yourself, see, just look at yourself. What a fallen wreck you are. See what you are doing." What the student does not realize is that the teacher has brought himself down to do all those things for the sake of the student. Otherwise, why would the teacher do all those things? And that has happened in this case also. This particular verse is one of the verses that are very frequently quoted to prove that Sri Krishna is casteist. Especially in the modern discourse on caste, verse 2.31 is often used as ammunition. You see, Sri Krishna is telling Arjun, you are a Kshatriya, so you should fight. So he will tell the other castes too what they should do. Caste and Varna are not exactly synonymous, but more or less. See, does not Krishna believe in the Varna system? Verse 2.31 is the proof. How can Krishna believe in Arjun's Kshatriya identity when he says vehemently, repeatedly, that all identities are false? Let alone being a Kshatriya, Arjun really is being told that you are not even a body, not even a person. If Arjun is not even a person, how can Arjun be a Kshatriya? But we cast aspersions on Krishna. We say, this verse is the proof that Bhagavad Gita is responsible, at least partially, for some of the casteism that grips the Hindu society. Bhagavad Gita is an antidote to casteism. Whatever you think of, you're not that. You're not man, you're not woman, you're not young, you're not old, you're not Brahmin, you're not Kshatriya, you're not Shudra. You're not good, you're not bad. Bhagavad Gita is there to dismiss and demolish all your identities. But those who do not understand, they come up with fantastic arguments. In fact, supporters of the caste system like the Bhagavad Gita for this very reason. They say, Sri Krishna himself has been supporting the caste system. Who are you to act as a bloody reformer and talk otherwise? Are you bigger than Krishna? When Sri Krishna himself supports caste, who are you to say that caste is frivolous or fictitious? So Krishna is pulled down from all sides by all kinds of vested interests, just because he has accepted to come to the level of the student so that he can lift the student up. He comes down to lift you up. But when he comes down, you try to dig a hole and bury him in that. Obviously, you can't succeed, but that's how the attempt is. Now that you have come down this far, you have allowed yourself to fall this low, why shouldn't you be buried to a place yet lower? Are you getting it? The teacher did this to me. The teacher did that to me. What else could have worked with you? Is anything else working with Arjun? Please tell me. Arjun was given the highest discourse possible. Was he or was he not? Did it work? Did it work? This chap was given the highest. This chap was given the highest. That one too was given the highest. Did it work? Did it work? Did even the second highest work? So what option is left but to try out the lowest? And when the lowest is executed, then the blame falls on the teacher. Please tell me, do you respond to anything except the lowest? Please tell me, honestly. And has the teacher not tried out everything that can be called high, higher or highest with you? Please tell me. Please tell me. But you will not remember all the attempts of the teacher. What you will remember is that, I saw the teacher falling to that level. The teacher fell to that level for your sake, dude. Because you were lying on that level, inebriated, to pick you up. There was no way to remain in the skies and lend you a helping hand. Before you remember the teacher at the lowest level, try also to recall how much the teacher tried at higher levels. Have some empathy. See how you foiled all his attempts. See how mercilessly you kept refuting and blocking him. To many, Krishna is a god here. Verily, Swayam Bhagwan is talking in the Bhagavad Gita. To me, his glory lies in the fact that he is struggling. He is badly struggling. As we said, Arjuna is a real tough nut. And what I am saying is proved by the fact, if we can call these things as facts, that even after the 700 verses, Arjuna has still not understood. There is a later conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. After the war, Arjuna says, I have forgotten everything that you told in the Gita. In fact, I never understood in the first place. And now is the time Krishna rebukes Arjuna heartily. He couldn't do that in the course of the Gita because the matter was a bit sensitive. Arjuna might have run away. So Krishna remained solemn and sober. But after the war, he puts Arjuna to the sword. He says, you come here. 700 verses. And you learned nothing. And after that, he repeats the lesson of the Gita to Arjuna. So Arjun is a really formidable challenger. You might be Sri Krishna. You might be the truth personified. You might be the most articulate teacher possible. I won't relent. But thanks to Arjun, we have the Bhagavad Gita. Had Arjun softened up easily, maybe all we would have received was 35 verses. Arjun was doughty enough to keep resisting till 700. So we have the entire Bhagavad Gita.